It's time for the Margin Matters Minute with Money Man Jason Brown.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Jason Brown here, and today I have a special guest, Mr. Jim Martell, who is joining us to discuss what home renovations are worth it and what home renovations are not worth it. So, Jim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Jason. Always a pleasure.
All right, we appreciate your time. Now, Jim, real quick, I want to share a little bit more of Jim's background. Jim is a longtime expert realtor who is based in the Atlanta, Georgia market. Jim is also a U.S. Marines veteran, so I do want to thank you for your service right off the top, Jim. I really appreciate that,
pleasure.
serving our country.
Thank you.
And a little more about Jim. He is a managing partner at Vested Interest Partners with Keller Williams Realty of First Atlanta. And Jim will tell you more about all that a little bit later in our talk here. But Jim, thanks so much for joining us. And I've been, I want to let everyone know this is kind of a hot button topic for anyone who owns a home. We own a condo. A lot of people are always asking, what's the best, renovations that we can do that will add value in case we want to sell, or everyone always wants to increase their property value. So, and there's a lot of myths out there of, hey, just renovate the master bathroom or the kitchen, or don't worry about anything else. Or some people tell you, oh, just slap some fresh paint on the wall. That's all you need to do. Or you'll hear so many different things. Oh, you don't even need to just clean the carpets, and you'll hear all kind of things. So sure. I wanted to bring Jim on and kind of share some of his insight from all his endeavors through the market. But first, I'll share real quick what we've done. So we have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo in Roswell, Georgia, which is in the Atlanta market. And we've actually done this in stages over the years, just because we couldn't afford to do it all at once. So we had to kind of plan and save for all these projects. So we started with the kitchen. We complete renovation, tore it out, renovated, modernized it, did a really nice job with the kitchen. Then we moved on, we did the guest bath and the master bath. So both bathrooms have been completely renovated, as well as the kitchen. So we spent a lot of money doing all of that. So I guess the question is, Jim, did we do the right thing? Did those renovations add value? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, kitchen is certainly one of the biggest places where you can get serious bang for your buck. And it just depends on how much you spend and what kind of controls you put in place in your renovation project to make sure that you are getting bang for buck, rather than spending, kind of overspending on retail, if you will.
Okay. Now, I guess the question is, so of all the things that you can renovate in your house, like so if I was your client, Jim, and I went to you and said, hey, Jim, I want to sell my house. What can I do to increase the value or get a higher sale price? What can I do at maybe at a cost reasonable thing? What
Sure. Well, that's a great question. And the first thing that I would tell you, the cheapest upgrade that you could make in getting your home ready to sell would simply be to declutter. Look, you're going to be packing and moving anyway. So go ahead and pack it up and, move it out, get it into a place. And when I say pack it up and move it out, I'm talking about the things that you don't want people seeing and gawking at when they're coming through your place on a showing and that kind of thing. You may have a collection of shoes that, 300 pairs of shoes. Hey, that's great. You don't need probably more than 10 of them to get through a month. So go ahead and pack the rest of them up and get them on out. And before you accuse me of, picking on the ladies who might be collecting those shoes, there are plenty of men that collect shoes and boots too. But there may be some other things like some personal photographs. You might have a lot of photographs and picture frames and family heirlooms and things that are personal to you, but that are not necessarily, particularly in the quantity that you might have them, not necessarily helping present the best features of the property and leaving to the buyer's imagination the best features of the property. And so go ahead and pack that stuff up and move it on out so that the buyers, when they do come, they can imagine their stuff in your place.
Right. That's a good tip for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's almost free. I mean, obviously
right.
storage might cost some money. And you know, boxes are really cheap if you go to the right place to get them. And the time invested in packing that stuff up. And of course, you could always, you know, potentially sell some of those things, give them away or throw them away if they are truly just clutter or junk.
Gotcha. Now let's talk about, I guess, um, is there, you know, for someone who wants to actually renovate, so is the kitchen the most valuable room to renovate? Is the master bath? Is it the, you know, the master bedroom? What is there a priority order that would, I guess, result in higher value of the home?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, the kitchen is an area of the house that almost everybody is going to use for the most part. It's an entertainment hub. It's where family gathers typically, particularly if it's an eat-in kitchen, if it has a breakfast bar or something like that, or has a breakfast nook or something. And a lot of folks don't eat at their formal dining table in a dining room if they even have that space in their home. And so they'll, you know, the kitchen table is kind of where people gather and around that the cooking is going on and you know everybody's in and out of the fridge and all that kind of stuff. So the kitchen is definitely where you can get maybe the most bang for your buck once you start spending money renovating things.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Now, what about, like, I've heard so many different people's opinions on renovations, and I think I mentioned this a second ago. Someone might just say, "Oh, just paint the walls," or just do something minimal, just to kind of, you know, freshen it up, or just get the carpet steam cleaned or something like that. Is something, you know, are little things like that, do they make a difference?
Sure, absolutely. And you know, it's all on a case by case basis. If you have little kids running around or have had children growing up and there are handprints all over the wall and little crayon markings and that kind of thing, then it's probably a good investment to invest in paint as long as the new paint isn't going to get ruined before you actually put your house on the market. And we could talk about something like that if it were the case that you still had the children running around, for example, before you splurge on carpet or other flooring or paint, which typically those things are not hugely expensive. They don't have to cost an incredible amount of money. And so you can get a lot of bang for your buck out of getting that fresh flooring and fresh paint in place, but you don't want to do it if you still have four dogs running around that are just going to trash the new carpet or the new
Right.
flooring, etc.
That, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And now here's another, a little bit different of a thought, Jim, and you tell me what you think. Is I've also heard people say regarding renovations, you know, don't do anything, because if you go ahead and renovate your whole house one way, and then you, like, say someone's trying to flip a house or get it ready to sell,
Sure.
and they want to increase the value, and then they just go ahead and renovate everything, and then your potential buyers, they might not like what you did to renovate it. They might not like the colors on the wall, or the color of the tile backsplash in the kitchen, or they might not have wanted stainless steel appliances, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I've actually heard the opposite advice. Hey, just sell your home as is, let the potential buyer come in, and whatever renovations they want to do, let them do their own renovations to their own, you know, let them customize it the way that they want. What do you say on that logic?
Sure. Well, you know, I understand the logic behind it. I understand why people would think that that makes sense. Um, in reality, the practice is your buyer pool consists of, let's say you have 100 buyers. Well, 90 of those buyers really want something that is finished, something that they can move right into and they don't have to change a thing. Or if they have to change something, it's not much. It's maybe some, changing paint colors or customizing the home in some way that again is not terribly expensive and not terribly time consuming for them to do kind of on weekend projects and that kind of thing. The issue with buyers today is they can borrow an incredible amount of money to purchase a property. So it doesn't, they can pay whatever they need to pay for the house, but what they don't have is a lot of cash left over so that once they close on the property, they just don't have a ton of cash to pour into the property to make it kind of their own and to fix it up and to customize it. And again, I'm speaking generally. There are certainly buyers who do have the cash and they're looking for opportunities like that. But the vast majority of home buyers, even the ones that think, oh yeah, we'd like a fixer upper or we would, we would look at something to fix up. When I get them out there and we're looking at houses, they don't want to fix her up or they don't want to fix anything. They want to move in and have their house be the way that they want it.
Right. That's good.
So
That's good to know.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think
yeah,
what you were saying about the people that, oh, we want to fix her up, or they might not realize how much they're getting themselves into. Like, hey, this house,
right,
the whole house needs renovated. And it was built 100
right,
years ago or whatever. It needs modernized. And then you realize, oh, well, I can buy this house for $200,000 and it needs almost $200,000 in renovations. And
right.
you might get a little bit in over your head in a situation like that. So that's actually a good cautionary advice, Jim. Now,
Sure.
so the next thing is what? Because we talked about the kitchen probably being the most valuable room to renovate, which makes perfect sense. Now, what
Sure.
would be the least valuable or the biggest waste of money to renovate in a home that just you wouldn't get your money back on?
Sure. Well, that's also an awesome question, Jason. And I kind of I don't want to say that it would be a waste necessarily. And again, it would be on a case by case basis. But if you have a choice between spending $10,000 renovating a bathroom, particularly a master bathroom or say a kitchen, if you had the choice between pouring $10,000 into that or pouring $10,000 into encapsulating the crawl space, I would choose the thing that people are going to see and live in, 9 times out of 10. And only the 1 time out of 10 would be if the crawl space is just so atrocious and it has serious water and mold and other problems in it that an inspector is going to basically flunk a house on for a buyer if they get it under contract, if that hasn't been addressed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
Um, Now let's talk. My last question is, and this is kind of we talked about this before, Jim. This is a very, very interesting trend in renovations and home renovations. This is as a straight result from the pandemic is,
Yeah.
and this actually trend started last summer, so the summer of 2020, is people are putting in pools in their backyard, in-ground pools. They're installing pools, and this, of course, was a result of the summer of 2020 when the majority of all the pools were closed, when people were locked in and the quarantines and all that stuff was going on, and people couldn't get out and they wanted to go swimming when it's 100 degrees outside. So hey, let's just build our own pool in our own house, and we saw a big trend in that. And from what I understand, Jim, that is not cheap to do. So tell us a little bit about, like, how much does it cost to do that, and does that add value to your home?
Sure. Again, great questions. And a pool, I've referred to pools a lot of times as $10,000 holes in the ground. And what I mean by that is not that it costs $10,000 to make that hole in the ground. And then of course, to decorate all around it and to add the pump and to make a pool actually function the way a pool is supposed to. It'll cost a lot more than $10,000.
Right.
What I mean by a $10,000 hole in the ground is that it costs about $10,000 to get enough dirt to fill the pool and make it into a nice backyard area if somebody wanted it. Now, that of course was before the pandemic. A lot of people, you're right, they want a pool. They don't want their neighborhood pool to shut down and them not be able to swim and cool off on these sometimes ridiculously hot June, July, August days. And so I've seen pools as cheap as 70 or $80,000 these days. Again, that's a nice in-ground pool, but that's kind of a starting point at this point in Metro Atlanta. And then, of course, just like anything, just like you could spend $150,000 in a kitchen if you wanted to, you could spend $150,000 or $250,000 on a pool. It would be pretty sweet if you did, trust me. You can run the gamut in terms of cost, but 70 or $80,000 just kind of for a basic pool setup in your backyard is quite an investment. And typically speaking, no, you're not going to get dollar for dollar back on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think I've heard that as well, Jim. And I think maybe one of the reasons why is because now I don't know the exact cost of this, but the cost to maintain the pool, like the electricity for the pool pump and the cost of, I guess you have to hire a pool cleaning service company to come service the pool. If you're doing like a chlorinated pool, you have to hire a pool guy, or and then you have to maintain the pool. Does the pool need to be renovated and all of this? It seems like it's a lot involved in owning a pool.
Yeah. I can tell you firsthand that is true. I am a proud pool owner.
Okay.
As of this year, we closed on a home with a pool just a couple of months ago, not even 6 weeks ago, actually. And it had been neglected. So we kind of got a taste of everything that you're talking about.
Okay.
We got to pay someone to come out and tell us what we had and whether it works or not and make it work right. We had, a leaking pump that had a couple of different leaks that needed to be fixed. It did have a saltwater system that had been kind of neglected, and so that needed to be rehabilitated a little bit. The water had to be drained, and all the leaves and tadpoles and frogs and everything else that was in there needed to be cleaned out and then refilled with water and shocked so that the algae that naturally occurs in a pool would be killed off and get the pool nice and clear and healthy, if you will, rather than green and nasty. And so we've been through it, and I can tell you it's worth it.
Okay.
Because we've jumped in on these hot summer nights, and it's pretty sweet.
That's good. Now let me ask you this: is there a situation where adding a pool would increase the home value?
Well, I think the jury is going to be out on that because the trend that you've mentioned in the past year and a half, because of the pandemic, because home is so much more important. I think yes. I think that pools can add value. There are going to be, and it also kind of depends on where you are. In Atlanta, Georgia, there are a lot of community pools. And it just depends on whether the community pools are going to be open or not.
Right.
But if you're in Florida in certain communities, if you don't have a pool in your backyard, you're in trouble. Like, you need a pool in your backyard. It's just, well, and that because you grew up there, right?
That is true. Yeah. It seems like almost every house has a pool, like a screened in pool in the backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if not, then you make friends with people who are, so at least you can drop by.
That is true. Yeah. That's definitely an interesting trend to follow for sure with the pool stuff. So Jim, as we wrap up this video here, are there any final thoughts on tips or wisdom of just any renovation tips that we haven't covered?
Yeah, definitely. I actually I meant to mention something when I talked about how cheap, if you will, it can be just simply to declutter. I also meant to mention that one thing you definitely want to do if you're getting ready to sell your home in particular is invest in curb appeal, invest your time and effort into making the front of the house just look fantastic for photos, and whatever you can do to the grounds to make them look like they're well maintained, well thought out, nice fresh plants, green up the grass, keep the leaves down, make your pine aisles look good, so forth and so on. And of course, pressure wash the house and make
Right.
sure the house itself looks well maintained from the exterior.
That's actually a really good tip, Jim, because I don't think people think so. What we're talking about here is landscaping, right? So that's actually something that I don't think people might think of when they think of renovations. They're thinking of something inside the home. And if you're getting ready to sell your home, what renovation can you do? Hey, maybe hire a landscaping company to come and, like you were talking about, make the curb appeal. What can I do to the front yard, to the surrounding grounds, to make
Sure.
this house, how do I beautify the landscaping? So that is actually something I actually never thought of as a renovation, but that could really prove beneficial to someone who might be looking to sell their home. So that's actually a really good tip, Jim.
So that's an interesting point, Jason. And it goes inside the house too. So if you're thinking hire a professional to look at the outside, well, one of the things that I meant to mention also is earlier when you were talking about, folks who maybe got the advice to not make color choices, not make paint or carpet or flooring or granite or whatever improvements on the interior of their home because they may do something that buyers ultimately don't like. Well, we can definitely get you a home staging professional
Mhm.
who should be up on the trends that are in place now, as well as on the timeless. I don't want to say timeless trends, but on the timeless pieces that could make your home really pop and stand out as a well-maintained, beautiful home and help get you top dollar when you do sell the house. And so I definitely wanted to mention, get a staging professional. And another thing you may want to do ahead of selling is hire a home inspector.
Right.
You want to know what kind of things a buyer will find when their home inspector comes in. So if you get your own home inspector up front, then you can find out, what's wrong, if you will, with your home, and you can make certain changes and decide where to put your money. Of course, I wouldn't do any of those things without talking to a real estate professional first.
Right. And that's a great segue to as we close up this interview, Jim. Let everybody know how they can connect with you if they're in the Atlanta market or the Southeast. Really, I know you cover a lot of the Southeast as well. Let if anyone needs your services or wants to connect with you, or maybe ask some of these type of questions, let us know how they can contact you.
Sure. Well, you can definitely call, text, or email. My info will be right here on the screen for us. And then you can always go to www.thevip.group. That is a website. It's basically a number of links, and it'll kind of guide you to where you want to go to get whatever question or item answered as you see fit. So we would love to help you out. That's what we do. Vested Interest Partners Group at Keller Williams First Atlanta. That's just a long name for the brokerage that I work for. We're part of a vast enterprise that is really international with over 180,000 agents around the globe. And if we can't handle your business, then we can certainly help you find the right person to handle your business. And we would be honored to do so.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Jim. And I really appreciate your time today. This has been very educational for me and hopefully for anybody who is watching this as well, considering renovating their home in hopes of increasing the value. So
Hey,
for
anytime. Thank you.
yes, you bet, Jim. And we're going to do a series of these interviews with Jim. So check out, I have a playlist below on my channel. I think it's just simply listed Jim Martell, real estate expert, something like that. So you can actually watch all the interviews with Jim if you would like. So until next time, For Mr. Jim Martell, this is Jason Brown saying to remember, it's not the amount of money you make, but the margin that matters the most. And we will see you next time.